Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to our Living Well with Prostate Cancer webinar series. Today, we have a skin fitness workshop in association with Look Good, Feel Better. My name is David James, and I'm the Head of Patient Projects at Prostate Cancer Research. So, first of all, a little bit about who we are at Prostate Cancer Research. So, PCR at Prostate Cancer Research, we are a research-focused charity that's dedicated to improving and saving lives by developing new treatments for advanced prostate cancer. By funding novel and innovative projects at world-leading institutions right across the UK, we're working towards breakthroughs in the prevention, the diagnosis and treatment of advanced prostate cancer, and ensuring better quality of life outcomes for patients. We're proud to fund 15 high-quality research projects right across the UK, from Cardiff to Glasgow, Aberdeen, Newcastle, Norwich, London, Oxford, Cambridge. And these are focused on key areas such as bone metastases, radiotherapy, hormone therapy, immunotherapy, and AI, with a shared aim of reducing morbidity, increasing survival rates, and improving the quality of life for people with prostate cancer. So, those of you who have joined us previously, you might be used to me then giving a little bit of an update about one of our specific projects, but today is going to be a little bit different because I'd like to take a moment to tell you about an exciting new project we have planned. So at Prostate Cancer Research, we are planning to set up the first of its kind prostate cancer registry in the UK next year. So the first question you might rightly ask is, well, actually, what is a prostate cancer registry? So what this is it's a database of information on individuals who have or who have had prostate cancer. And this information can be anything from a person's medical history, any medications and treatments they might be having, and changes to their experience over the course of time. So as it stands right now, there are all these different bits of information scattered right across the UK. In fact, there are over 150,000 records relevant to prostate cancer scattered across the UK. But the problem is this information doesn't talk to each other, and real people's experiences are not included in a lot of that information. So what happens is this very fragmented approach is slowing down breakthroughs and developing new treatments and new tools to help diagnose prostate cancer earlier. So actually, by gathering this information together in a single registry, and then putting real people's experience at the center of this, we can learn so much more about the true impact of a disease and how it affects people's lives. And joining a registry would not just benefit others through your contribution to research, but it would also actually benefit you as well. You'd be able to access much more relevant information about your treatment and care, and be get informed about the most relevant clinical trials that you might be eligible for, as well as, of course, providing critical evidence to speed up and shape vital research. And one thing to be very clear about from the outset is that your privacy would be the utmost priority for us. So no personal identifiable information would ever be released to any third party. So no data that would allow someone to recognize you as an individual. And all medical information that you provided to the registry would be anonymized before being used for research. So I'd like to take just 2 minutes. I'm going to play you this video now, which was produced by Understanding Patient Data and the Association of Medical Research Charities. And I think what this does is it really helps explain the importance of something like a prostate cancer patient registry, albeit in this example, they're talking much more broadly about the power of sharing data across the health system to help save lives and make the future better. Of course, this is the moment when it does not play. Come on. Bear with me 1 second. There we go.
Human society is built on our ability to share and pass on information. It has allowed us to progress from the Stone Age to the Space Age. Today, in the age of digital communication and high-tech research, sharing data is more important than ever before. And this is especially true in healthcare. When the NHS was founded in 1948, things were quite different. Our medical records lived in dusty drawers, locked away in darkened corridors, and seen by very few, despite the need. Until surprisingly recently, even your GP and your local hospital would share very little data about your care. Data sat alone and unloved, its life-saving potential untapped. Today, patient data is an essential part of healthcare and underpins the services provided by the NHS. By understanding how we receive and experience care, the NHS can find new ways to improve. By linking patients' data from different parts of the NHS and analysing it, it becomes possible to diagnose health conditions earlier and provide new drugs and treatments for everything from asthma and heart attacks to diabetes, cancer, and dementia. Data helps monitor the safety of drugs and vaccinations and makes sure that health services are maintaining a high standard of care. Data also helps the NHS plan for the future, from understanding which services will be most needed to anticipating changes in our society and our health. And just as important as the data itself is keeping it safe. Data held anywhere in the health and care system must be stored securely with controlled access. There are strict rules about how data can and cannot be used. Data is provided in the most anonymised way possible, with robust legal contracts. These safeguards are in place to protect privacy and ensure data is shared responsibly. From improving patient care to speeding up diagnosis and researching brand new treatments, data saves lives. It could one day save yours or the life of someone you love. To find out more about how patient data is used and your choices, visit patientdata.org.uk.
So the reason, obviously, why I'm telling you all this is because we're actually in the planning stages for this prostate cancer registry. And we're asking people affected by prostate cancer to pledge their support and help make this registry a reality. And we're proud to have Stephen Fry on board and pledging his support for this registry because he realizes that his experience matters and so does yours too. So this is not a financial pitch. I'm not asking for a financial pledge of support. What I'm asking for, actually, I think is something more important, is a pledge of your commitment to the concept of this registry. So it will take no more than 30 to 60 seconds to go online to our website and pledge your support. And by doing that, you're going to help us demonstrate to others that the registry can work and help us make the case to secure the funding we need to launch our pilot project next year. So your pledge is in no way a binding commitment to join a future registry, but if we are able to raise the funds that we need to launch the pilot project next year, we'll then come back to you with more information about how exactly you can get involved. So what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to send the webpage in the chat now, and actually going to ask if we're going to take a very quick pause. We'll take a minute or so and ask if I can ever get the chat open. Here we go. This is the website. So it's www.pcr.org.uk/pledge. And what will happen is you'll be brought to a website like this, where you can simply put in your name, your email address, and maybe a reason why you might be pledging your support to a registry. I'm going to sort of just give you about a minute if anyone wants to go away and do that now. You know, if you don't want to do it now, but you'd like to have a think about it, obviously I understand, but you know, would love it if you were able to pledge your support to this cause. And when you come to this page as well, you'll see there's also that video which we just watched, and then a frequently asked question section at the bottom as well. So, you know, maybe if you have some questions before you pledge your support, you just want to read a bit more about it, you can find that information there. So I'll give about a minute for everyone to done that. And I've got one gentleman who said he's already done that. So thank you so much. Yes, for those people who very keen-eyed, this went out in our newsletter, which was delivered to many people today, possibly over the weekend. So they've got a head start on you. But I'll just give about 30 more seconds for anyone who wants to just go on and do that. And then we will continue with today's session. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you if you did take the time. I will send this round in the follow-up email afterwards as well. So if you want to either note down the website pcr.org.uk/pledge or have a think about it and maybe think about it doing it over the weekend. If you have a spare minute, that would be really fantastic, and your support would be really appreciated. So onwards with today's session. So as many of you know, I think many of you have probably joined some of our previous sessions, but if you haven't, this webinar series, Living Well with Prostate Cancer, is brought to you in collaboration with our good friends Tackle Prostate Cancer, who are the UK's National Federation of Prostate Cancer Patient Support Groups. So there's a Q&A sort of section. There's no chat function available, but if you have any questions during today's session, please just type them in the Q&A and then we will address them as we go on. This session is being recorded, so we will be sending this recording round to everyone who was able to attend and those who weren't. So you will get access to this recording afterwards. So we are going to be doing things a little bit differently today in terms of Q&A. We're actually going to have multiple different Q&As right through the session, and this is so that because we're going to be doing a few different topics within this workshop today. I think it will help us sort of make sure we're getting relevant questions to the right people at the right time. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today. We're joined by two wonderful speakers, Mark Sprosten, aka the Shave Doctor, who's a global leading shave and skin expert, international educator, and Look Good, Feel Better ambassador. And we're also joined by Michelle Roberts. Michelle is a skincare expert and helped launch Look Good, Feel Better's first face-to-face men's workshop. So I think without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand over to Mark to kick things off. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, David. Thank you for inviting us onto this webinar. I think what we'll do is let Michelle introduce the charity to the group, and then Michelle will hand back to me, and then I can start my presentation on the skincare and shave care. You're on mute, Michelle.
Not now. Thanks, Mark. Hi, gentlemen. Look Good, Feel Better is a national charity. We've been in the UK now for we're coming up for 28 years in the UK. And our first pilot session, if you like, was skincare and makeup for ladies. And we have seen thousands of ladies over the 28 years. And I'm really pleased to say that in 2019, it was piloted, this service, for men going through any form of cancer treatments. The charity is also available in 27 countries worldwide and coming up for 28 years in the UK. We are not connected in any way to around the world, although we do keep in touch with them. So today's aim is really to see if you have any questions about looking after yourselves throughout your treatment or your cancer journey, and any questions on like skincare, any questions on shaving, sun care, anything like that. So I say, without further ado, I'm going to pass back to Mark, who is going to start you off on skincare today.
Thank you, Michelle, and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Mark Sprosten. Some people in the industry might know me as the Shave Doctor, given to me by one of the brands that I spent a lot of time working with back in 2007 to about 2009. Some of you might know the brand King of Shaves. So I spent a lot of time working on some of their projects, and their new razor they launched back in 2008 called the Azor, sorry, without the R. So the name was given to me by one of their marketing directors because when we were touring the country with their promotion, he saw how much knowledge I had on shave care and skincare, and that's from my training school where I teach barbers all over the world to deliver the perfect barbershop shave. So some of you may have already been to a barbershop, whether it's in the UK or across the world and experienced a barbershop shave. Some do it extremely well. Some do it just literally if there's no one waiting for another haircut, and they will just ask you if you want a quick shave, and it's literally slap the cream on, cold towel, and then out the door you go. Maybe a little bit of lemon cologne if it's from a Turkish barber. However, what I saw from my research back in 2006 is that it wasn't being done on a consultancy level. So every man was being treated exactly the same. We've got different skin types, we've got different hair types. Some will struggle with shaving rash and razor burn. There's a difference between the two. People assume it's the same thing, but just using different language. Ingrown hairs, whether you've got black skin, Asian skin, Caucasian skin. So what I did is spend many years researching the skin science around shaving. And then I launched the Shave Academy back in 2007. And then we started to teach barbers, including beauty therapists here in the UK, how to deliver the Shave Doctor, a professional wet shave. So it includes 40 minutes of pure luxury, lying back. You haven't got to speak. Obviously, sometimes you can't because you've got a cutthroat razor around your neck. But it's a fantastic treatment to have, and you'll hear me throughout the next hour or so call it a treatment, because I fully believe that for most men it can be a treatment, because there is a lot of men that still do struggle with shaving. I have men when I do my workshops, whether it's on Zoom or through my education workshops throughout the world, and they could be in the 60s, 70s I've had, and say, look, I wish I'd have learned all this many years ago, because I've still been doing it wrong. You told me in one session what I should be doing and how I should be doing it, and now I can shave with comfort. I appreciate that now we live in a modern world. We've had almost 2 years of the pandemic. Lots of men will be possibly working from home. Some might not be working due to the fact that you're going through your cancer journey or your treatment. So shaving isn't high on your agenda, but at some point you may think, when I do need to shave, I want to get it right. I don't want to feel the irritation. And it's not just here. Some men will shave everywhere. I mean, literally the underarms, depending obviously on the age that you are, but I know that the new generation coming through, they don't like hair. So they'll shave the underarms, sometimes the chest, sometimes down below, between the legs. So that's becoming more common now. I could probably see, or at least hear some of you chuckling along the way, but it is what it is. So of course, if we've got the right techniques and we're using the right products, then we can help you avoid all those shaving issues. It's not just with the wet razor. We have lots of men say, look, I can't get on with the wet razor, so I use electric. So again, we'll talk you through how to use the electric razor properly and look after your skin. And especially if you are struggling with your skin now, it's obviously having the side effects from the cancer treatment or the cancer itself. So the reason why, and I always say on every Zoom, there are other good leading products out there other than my own, but we've now got our own Shave Doctor range of shaving products or skincare products. But they were developed for sensitive and sensitized skin. So again, there's a difference between the two. And again, we'll talk through that when we come to the shaving part. So they were developed purely for sensitive skin types and sensitized skin types. Of course, if you're going through the cancer treatment, the skin may have changed. And these products, along with some that I do recommend, will help avoid those other side effects that you may get from possibly some of the harsh chemicals that you get in the skincare products today. It's getting better, but there's some products still have lots of parabens, petrochemicals, the sulfates. So again, they can actually have an impact and the side effects on your skin. And obviously what we want to do is encourage you guys to actually look after your skin more, and say it's everywhere, not just here, than not at all. So what we normally do is have a interaction. So this is quite different from Michelle and I. Normally we have a screen full of people, and we've got them we can see their eyes and we can see their interest, and they're coming back with questions all the time, which is great. this is obviously different. So we're going to have probably 3 sections here on the pre-shave questions, shave questions, and then we'll go through the skincare questions. And then Michelle will reach out to you guys on the sun care as well. So I'm hoping there's plenty of questions after each section. We'll start with the scrub. So something that lots of men don't do on a regular basis. I always encourage them to do at least once, twice a week. And the benefits are incredible. And it's great for tackling things like ingrown hairs. So I know 40% of men aged between 18 and 50 will struggle with ingrown hairs. And normally it's always around sort of this area here, around the neck area, possibly on the jawline. So even if you're not wet shaving, even if you're not electric shaving and you've just got a beard, sometimes under that beard, there could be ingrown hairs or spotty prone skin. So what I do recommend is that you wash every day, but with a specific wash. So these brands like L'Oreal, we've got Number 7, we've got Nivea, we've got Shave Doctor. We all know that those products will benefit your skin. They're not just put in there for a particular reason just to sell a product. There's been a lot of science that's gone behind it and the benefits of why you should use one. So the wash we recommend daily. Lots of men will think, well, I'll find probably the shampoo on the side. Could be good, depending what's in it. But again, lots of shampoos have harsh chemicals to strip all the oils and the daily elements out of your hair, which can be too harsh for your skin. So the wash we recommend daily. Scrub is different. And again, surprisingly, lots of men don't know the difference between a scrub and a wash. So the wash is like a gel, like a shampoo, if you like. The scrub has got a grit element to it. Now, if you do struggle with ingrown hairs, the scrub wash is brilliant because what it's going to do is scrub away all the dead skin cells, and then it will allow the hairs underneath to grow freely through the dermis of your skin. And a lot of men will struggle with ingrown hairs because literally they're not looking after their skin. If you shave every day, and if you wet shave every day, more than likely you will not struggle with ingrown hairs. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because when you do shave, and you shave with a razor like this, you'll remove up to 10 layers of the outer layers of the epidermis. So it's not just hair you're removing, it's also skin that you're removing. So you'll see also skin on your razor blade. So when you're removing up to 10 layers of the outside of the epidermis, you've got up to, by the way, back between 25 and 30, so that's a third of what you're removing. That's allowing then the hair to grow freely through the dermis of the skin. If you've got skin, what I call dead skin cells, that's not been scrubbed away or washed on a daily basis, what happens is then you've got layers built up over the dermis of the skin. And then you imagine the hair then trying to grow through, obviously it's got the dermis to grow through the inner and the outer. It then hits the outer dermis, then it has to again push through again on the final surge of the growth. When it hits the layers of dead skin cells. And it does that, can't go any further, and then it sort of grows back in. And that's why we get the ingrown hairs. There's a myth that shaving causes it, and it is a myth. We just mentioned the fact that if you shave on a regular basis with a wet razor, you're removing up to 10 layers of the outer layer of the epidermis. So we know through the science that shaving on a regular basis will help alleviate the ingrown hairs. Now, I've shaved in my workshops over the last 15 years, possibly going for 100,000 north males that are coming into my academies on a weekly basis, or when we're offering or delivering the workshops in our barbershops around the world. From all that, I've got lots of white papers and data that tells me that all these elements of technique and products and how we use them are working. So scrub wash, I always recommend that you use. Now, we're talking about this area here because my passion, obviously my business is shaving, but then we talk about the rest of your body as well. So there are great products out there now. We've got an energizing scrub as well as a wash product for your body as well as your face. So lots of men that I know and come to me will have issues of ingrowns under their arms, and they might have them around their torso and lower torso area. So again, not just concentrating maybe when you're in the shower on your hair, but again, have something in the shower if you want to stay in the shower and do all your hygiene in there and your grooming routine, and have something in the shower that can do that. Yeah, so it's all over body wash, and make sure that you, and in fact, most of the young boys these days will spend a lot of time down there actually, rather than actually up here. So we need to be doing that ourselves as older gentlemen or middle-aged like me, as we get older. And the hair tends to sometimes grow a little bit thicker, sometimes a bit more wiry if we go a bit more grayer. So the scrub wash is so, so important. And again, for the ingrown hairs. What it also does is actually, if you use it, and you can see, if you use it down here first, and then wash it off, and then just pat dry your skin, you'll see how much skin it does lift off the off your face. Because then you'll see this here that's quite dull looking, and then around here it's got this real glow. So you know, if you're going through an illness or you're going through treatment, and it has got that side effect of making your skin look a little bit dull, using the scrub every day will help lift it and make it feel more alive, and you'll feel more alive as well. And in our Shave Doctor products, we've got something called lemon tea tree oil. It's called Leptospermum petisoni, but it's got that lemon zing. So of course, when you've had that wash, you've had the scrub, you've pat dried your face. We'll go into the moisturizer of it a bit later, and then you put the moisturizer on, and you're ready for a new day. Ready for a new day. So even if you don't shave, and you've got maybe what I've got here, or a beard, it's still good for that, because again, the scrub will help wash the beard. It will scrub it through. You'll find that there's no spotty prone skin underneath, because hair harbors bacteria, as we all know. So if you're not looking after that area and other areas of your body by washing and scrubbing it, you'll leave the grease and the dirt and the grime under there. And when we shave sometimes beards off from the start, they've come into the barber shop, and they've put in a beard there for 6-7 years, and they said, look, I fancy a change, we want it all off. And we see underneath that the skin isn't in pretty good condition. And they don't know that because they've had this beard now for a number of years. So I can't stress, especially for guys living with cancer, how good the scrub is and the benefits are of using one, whether it's once or twice a week, and then using a wash every day. And just avoid those products that has the sulfates, the parabens, and the petrochemicals, because they will be an irritant to your already sensitive skin that's probably having an effect from the cancer treatment itself.
And definitely, I've learned, Mark, that using a scrub on the skin twice a day, it actually brightens the skin, but it actually removes any dead skin cells off the surface, but it also makes the skin looks younger. Amazingly younger, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Amazingly younger.
And it's not a miracle cure that when we've had a scrub and we're in our 50s and all of a sudden we've just finished our first session with a scrub and now we're at 30. It's not about that. It's actually just feeling the fact that the skin has had a really good treatment. And listen, most men always say we haven't got time, which I don't believe. We haven't got time to do all these things, but literally, I perfected a 5-minute shave, barbershop shave, in your own bathroom, using one of these, using 5 products. In fact, remind me, Michelle, at the end, I might, if I can find the link, there's a link to me doing that, because I do know that there's an excuse from a lot of men that say, I've got time to do all that. And they might say, I'll use 5 products for my luxurious shave on a Saturday morning at the weekend. Yeah. But you can actually do it every day or twice a week, depending on how often you shave. That's the thing. And also, if you're going to use one of those, now this is a trimmer, but if you use one where you've got the foil head, again, using shavers with the foil head, what you're doing, imagine that's the foil head there. Most men know that when they're trying to get a close shave in one of those, they know they can't. Even though they struggle with that, they use the electric. What they tend to do is still use the electric. It's easy, and they're not going to get any irritation. So what they tend to do is push down, and they're pushing down, trying to get it as close as they can. But of course, what they're doing with the rotating heads is forcing sometimes the hair that blade hasn't caught and forced it back in. And that's why some men who use electric shavers will have and suffer with ingrown hairs, because they're forcing the hair back in because they're pushing down with pressure. The good thing about using that is possibly you're not going to get the irritation, but again, you might get the side effects of the ingrown hair. So it's finding a balance between the two. If you do use the electrics, just be careful around this area here, because we see lots of men who've used them over the years where they've got what we call little red thread veins. And what sometimes people call, it's weathered. It's a weathered look, whether you spend a lot of time outside, depending on what your job is. But that is a contributing factor to actually using the electric shavers. And because they don't get you so close, so you spend more time using it, if you felt the foil head after you've used it, it's quite hot. So of course, what it's doing is damaging the dermis of the skin, and then it will start to leave these little red thread veins around here. So I always say be careful. And again, we'll come on to that with the shaving element. And there's tips on how to, if you want to continue using that, how not to damage the skin. Anything you want to add on to that, Michelle? Yes, you have some questions.
Yes, any questions on this, gentleman? I think, shall we put in the first poll now?
Yeah, sure. Let's drop the first poll open, and then if anyone has any questions at this point, if you just want to type them in the Q&A, but we're going to do our first poll. Here we go. Launching for you now. All right, leave it open for 10 more seconds and just waiting for final few, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. And what I'll do is I'm unmuted and microphoned. I'll tell you the results. So we've got a really nice mix. Got about 40% of people saying they sort of feel neutral about the question, how important is it to have a good skin care and grooming routine. Then we have a quarter saying it's important, and about 15% saying either it's not so important or very important, and then a small percentage, about 5%, saying not important at all. So I think we've got an open-minded audience here with a few, people you probably don't need to convert, but there are definitely a few there that are open to conversion. So thank you very much for joining. Obviously, you're here because you think this is something that is of importance and you want to find out more. So well, let's see. We haven't got any questions at this time. So what we'll do then, I think, is maybe at this point, I'm just going to chuck in a question of my own whilst we're at it. So see, Mark, you're kind of talking about the some men using the wet razor versus the electric razor. Do you have any sort of I guess it's just that kind of balancing act as a personal choice, do you think, or are there things that you would say might sway someone one way or the other, or they should maybe give it another try if they haven't used a wet razor for a while with a new, the techniques you're going to be talking about, or yeah.
Yeah, I think what normally happens, David, is that 99% of electric shavers are not bought by the user themselves. It's always bought as a gift. And of course, this time of year, Christmas, and the partner goes, oh, what can I get him this year? I know, I'll get him electric gadgets. And it's always electric razors, always. So it's one of the biggest electrical selling items during the Christmas period every single year. For the younger generation, what happens is, and of course now we live in a world where there's split families, single mothers, and the boys growing up are asking now their mother how they should be shaving, and she goes, "Well, I have no idea, son." So what normally happens is she'll go out for a little bit of advice, probably talk to her friends on Facebook or whatever it is, and then they always go, "Well, use electric." So they're actually pushed to the electric shaver from a very early age, and then they don't know any different. Because of the new generation, the second generation has been coming through. So I've got this, but normally I'm clean shaven apart from the goatee, so all this comes off normally. But I grow it for my workshop, so I let my students shave me with the cutthroat razor. But what normally happens is that then they will stick with the electric, not go back to the wet, possibly then for about 12, maybe 13, 14 years. So they get to the age of about 30, then they start experimenting with the wet razor. By then, their skins become sensitized. So they end up using it for the first time, then they get the shaving rash, they put the razor down, go back to the electric, and they think, I'll try it one more time, shaving rash, go back to the electric. So it's that vicious circle. And of course, I'm 52 now, but if I see the 40-year-olds and below who have got teenage boys, now of course we all look at our fathers as our role models. Now years and years ago, you'd see a lot more men wet shaving almost daily, David. Even if they worked in a factory. I don't know about yours, Michelle, but even if you worked in a factory, you just had that little bit of something, you just felt good by going to work, clean shaven, even though you could be getting dirty, 2 hours later. So you look at what your father's also doing. And of course, 40-something of dads today will be using the electric. Then he'll use the electric. So you'll find that if the dad's using the wet, the son tends to follow. Yeah. And obviously, I've just taught my boy who's 16 how to shave. And now I'm getting my friends' mothers now asking me how I should be then advising their sons how to shave. And of course, what do? We start them with the wet razor, because what we don't want is them to become sensitized to the electric. And then we see all sorts of conditions by, again, using these over a long period of time. I mentioned the red thread brains, the ingrown hairs. Some of the viewers today may not have had any of those, and that's fantastic. But I know from our research and the time I've been doing what I've been doing for the last 15 years, it represents at least 30 to 35% of all men. So that was the reason why I wanted to introduce the boys to it very early on. So we started something called Shavecation, and we go into schools and we teach the young boys how to shave, but not just shave, but also look after the skin, because at a certain age, hormones kick in. You get spotty prone skin, normally the T-zone. And then they're trying to shave at the same time. And then GPs are saying to them, if you've got mild acne or spotty prone skin, you can't use electric, you can't use the wet, you've got to use electric. Because what did the electric do? So if that's the forehead, I've got spotty prone skin and I'm doing this, and I put it down and I need to shave again 2 days later or tomorrow, depending how often I shave, all that bacterial infection is still in my electric shaver. So all I'm doing is actually reapplying the bacterial infection back onto my skin. Now, there's two ways you can actually, if you want to continue using the electric, you clean it thoroughly through after every single shave. But men being men don't do that. So wet razor for spotty prone or problematic skin outweighs the electric by far.
Can I just ask a question then, Mark? Over the last sort of 3 years working with men with cancer. A lot of the time questions come up, and maybe you can put the gentleman right on this one, whether they should be using a wet shave when going through treatment.
It's one of those that we have to be careful, because we don't know what treatment they're on. We don't know how it's affecting them personally. So I always say, speak to your consultant first, because I don't know exactly what the side effects they're having, that maybe they've been asked or not to shave with the wet razor. We do know sometimes that the skin can become more sensitive or sensitized. It can sometimes thin the outer layer of the dermis of the skin. So again, we have to be careful. If you're on certain drugs, warfarin one is one especially. But this is what we do in the consultation. And from my experience of shaving men living with cancer, I always say every man should experience it, whether they've got the side effects or not. And it's how I deliver it for each individual one, knowing what they've got to how I shave them. And I've shaved men. I want to keep this in, within the most positive light, but I've shaved men at the end of their life in bed, in the hospice, because it was one of their dying wishes, believe it or not. It's almost on their top 10 thing to do before they die. The barbershop shave is done properly with a cutthroat razor. And I was invited to a couple, and the wife said, look, he's always wanted one. They knew I was coming in and shaving the other patients. Difficult, but I did it. And so I think every man, depending, obviously, there was one that had a large tumor on his face that we mentioned the other night, Michelle.
Yeah.
But he still wanted to shave. He didn't say, well, I've got this tumor now, I don't want to shave. He still wanted to shave. Yeah. So, we walked through it step by step. He wanted to obviously do it off camera. So we did a workshop to start with, and then he wanted a one-to-one with me. And we went through it. His wife was a nurse. She was sat with him. He was in his bed, and we went through it. So I always say, speak to your consultant first, but give it a go at the same time. And just be careful, because I think a lot of the time, consultants, nurses, medical staff will say no, because I think sometimes they think that men are a little bit rushed in what they do. So 100 miles an hour, yeah, and then they get the nicks and the cuts. And of course, then the consultants are a little bit frightened that they might get an infection, and then of course, then that will have an impact on their treatment and their recovery. But if you do things in a nice methodical way and take your time and do it and not rush it, then I think that has more benefits than that. But we don't preach to men who use that to use that. Yeah, all we're doing is actually aligning the benefits one against the other. If you're still happy doing that, keep using it. If it works for you, and I would say, why fix something that's not broken? But all I'm doing is actually teaching you guys really what the benefits are by using one or the other.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for that. I think maybe with that now we'll move on to the next section, if that works.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. I've also got some questions at the end of this one. We've not got too many shy people on, David. Right, so let's move on to the shave itself now. So obviously you've listened to probably 10, 15 minutes of it within the scrub and the what we call the pre-shave already. So shaving is obviously an important part if you do it on whether it's a weekly or a monthly basis for your skin. Especially for the younger generation, they want to get it right. They don't want the shaving rash underneath. And bearing in mind, I also talk about and include the men with beards. You'll see it here at the moment. I've got that here, look. So I've got stubble around here. I've got the goatee. And then I've clean shaved underneath. So a lot of men will have now the stubble, maybe a beard, but they want it clean shaved underneath. So again, men will struggle with shaving rash around here because the hair on our neck grows parallel and flat to the skin. It grows in different directions. So of course, then when you're taking your razor that way, bear in mind that some of the hair here is probably growing up that way. It's literally ripping the hair out. So what we say is, if you can, just spend a little time just studying the hair growth. So from the jawline to maybe there, I know my hair grows to that point there down. So I'll shave that bit down first. From the base of the neck, it grows up almost towards my ear. So I'll do that. And then I'll switch and then I'll move up. And the same here, I'll do that. And then I'll switch and then go back up. I think we've got Q&A. Legs and genitals, yeah. So the same thing applies. So between legs and genitals, same thing applies. I mean, obviously the hair is softer than obviously on our face. Around the genital area, it's not, but be careful around the genital area because obviously there are certain parts that you will, I mean, that's very sensitive, and the skin's thinner down there as well. So it's about stretching down there on a, you've got to really stretch. I mean, obviously we always encourage men to stretch their skin when they're shaving their face. It applies more so when you're shaving down there, because I've seen a lot or heard a lot of stories about obviously having cuts and nicks down there. There are some products, I think, is it called Beat for Men? And I've seen a funny thread, some of you may have seen it. It was circulating about 3 or 4 years ago from a customer that bought it from Amazon and used it and left it on far too long. So I wouldn't recommend using that. But use something like this, which has got a 4-blade. Don't use one that's got a trimmer, because again, if you're coming up the wrong direction and you forgot it's on there, then you're going to be nicking all sorts of parts around your genital area. So it's important that one, you scrub down there as well. So again, as we would do here, scrub the area first. And what you're doing is also then helping soften that pubic hair. So you're softening the hair down there, and then apply a shaving gel oil. Now, I don't think or there might be. What you don't want to do is apply too much of a gel that then starts to look like a cream, because what happens is you can't see where you're shaving down there. And if there's too much on and you're going at a certain speed, you're going to be in trouble. So we've got something called a shave gel oil. The Shave Doctor's got a shave gel oil, and it's a gel that behaves like an oil. So lots of oils, shaving oils that you guys have used them, they're what I call very aqua-based, and they're very watery, very thin. What we wanted with ours was to add this protective layer that looked like a gel when it was on, but it's 90% oil, but blended like a gel. It's really, really good. And of course, then you can use that down there, so you can actually see where you're shaving. If you can't, it's going to be a disaster. So again, scrub wash down there, gel oil, and then stretch as much as you can. I always suggest, actually, I mean, I see some men, they do it standing up. You're actually better off actually almost sitting down and doing it, so you can actually see. You can't see when you're doing that, but you can actually when you sat down. So I'd recommend that you sit.
Somebody's asked, so is it wash first, then oil, then cream and shave? That's it.
Exactly that. And do you know what? The question's just been asked there. He's not on his own. I think something like now, nearly 50% of Europeans will shave down there now. And the Brits are now catching up. It's about 25, I think about 25%. So 1 in 4 of us will do it. Major benefits and all sorts of, I won't go into what they are. But there are major benefits by clean shaving down there for certain. Yes. So as we just mentioned. So just to confirm, scrub, wash or wash at least before you do it. That will soften the hair down there. Don't pat dry it. Leave it wet because the hair is now soaking wet. This is what you want. Gel oil on, and give it a good massage round. Stretch the skin. You can put cream on, but make sure it's a thin layer of cream. So some will use the gel on its own because it will have enough protection. And then shorter strokes. Don't just go right up like that. So shorter strokes, take your time and make sure it's not a razor with a trimming edge on, or else you'll be in trouble. Yeah. So I hope that's answered the question. And hopefully there's maybe some of you on here that may do that already, and that's a good tip. In terms of finishing, then obviously what you need to do is pat dry, don't rub it dry, and then you can put a nice moisturizer on after. And I would suggest that once you've done it, 2 hours later, you can do it again, and then before you go to bed. Because what you'll find is when the hair starts to grow through again, it'll just get a little bit itchy down there. And of course, if you're wearing boxer shorts and jeans and a belt, it will start to rub. So it'd be like wearing a shirt and you've just had a good shave today, and during the day, it's just, the hair growth just starting to grow through again. It will just start to irritate. So just put plenty of moisturizer on, probably at least 3 times before you go to bed. If you've done it in the morning, if you've done it at night, put plenty on, and then let it sit there and let it absorb in naturally. Okay. In terms of the shave here as well, I mean, we just talked about how, you know, my skin is underneath there. Like, I mean, 52, I'm hoping that, you know, you guys think for a 52-year-old, it's quite good nick. And it's because, you know, I've been using this now since I was about 17, 18. Yes, it's my business, but, you know, I was suffering with shaving rash from the time I was shaving. And it was a passion of mine to make sure that I didn't, because it looked horrendous. You know, I was going out and, you know, it was red and it was raw and it was sore. So it was always a passion of mine to make sure that I got a shave comfortably, but also clean. So product is key, preparation is key. And we talked about the scrub wash, we talked about the wash. Now then, we talked about the shave gel oil for the genital area and the legs. And also, by the way, we'll talk about the armpits as well. So shave gel oil is the perfect protector, and then we'll put the cream over the top. So what I tend to do is massage in the gel oil, leave it for about 30 seconds so that it will soak the beard hair through. And we're just talking about this area as well, if you like, the neck area. And then we'll apply the cream over the top. Yeah. And of
Mark,
course,
can I just stop you?
I've
got a question here from a gentleman. How should you use a trimmer down there?
In the genital area?
Yes.
Or down here? In the trimmer? As in one of these?
Yeah. How should you use a trimmer down there?
Yeah. It's not going to be the trimmer I was talking about on the edge of that. It's going to be the trimmers. Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he confirms it's one of those, I can talk through one of those.
Okay. We'll see what he comes back with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it is, and in fact, I will do anyway, because if some people are thinking about using one of those, it's difficult because, I mean, these are so sharp. And I don't know if you noticed, but if you slowed these blades down, what the barbers use, you'll see the blades actually moving like that. Now, of course, if you've got that going through your genital area, especially around the sac area, and then that gets stuck, it's going to be quite nasty. So if you want to remove the hair from the top of the genital area, it's great. And you use it. So imagine that's the top of the genital area, there's your penis. And then you do that. Yeah. So you move away from your penis up to your stomach. Do it that way. Don't go into it. So you move away from it. Don't use it underneath, because these things are so sharp. And then, you know, I said, we've heard lots of men who thought, yeah, that's going to be quick, it's going to be easy. But of course, you can't get any lubrication down there. And when you got that going, and then it's doing that, and then as you notice that, you know, the genital area is not smooth, it's not straight, then you're going to have lots of issues down there using one of those.
Mark, he's got a small body trimmer.
Yes, I mean, the body trimmer, you might be able to do it. If it's got guards on, I would certainly use the guard to start with. I think have I got the small body trimmer? Yeah, sorry. Is it full electric shaver? Yes, around the perineum area. Yeah, again, we've just talked about the fact that you can use it, you know, on the top part for certain, you know, around the torso, bottom of the torso area, coming up away from the sort of the groin area. But underneath, yes, the trimmers might give you enough protection. Depends on what close you want to get. Do you want to remove all the hair, or do you want it completely smooth? If you want it completely smooth, use the razor. And again, we talked about how you use that. if you're not too bothered how close it is, but you just want to trim it all down, then that I would think is too big. Yeah, and it's far too harsh. But the small trimmers, which I think maybe one of them is suggesting that they use, it's probably only about that wide, then you can use it. But I would, again, just tread with extreme caution. I don't know if they've used it before. I don't know where you can confirm that and whether you've got good results from it. Has it a guard on it? I would always recommend using the guard. But it's down to personal preference and how close you want to go in removing that hair down there. I'm hoping that's answered there's 3 in there now. I think, Michelle. Yeah, it's a small body trimmer.
What advice can you give on keeping your eyebrows, including a monobrow, nose, and your hair under control? I'm of an age where perms were common, and there used to be regular adverts on TV for Cossack and Falcon hairspray for men.
Yeah. God, them were the days, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Good to have that viewer on. Yeah. Listen, I mean, there's some good barbers out there now that do the removal of the nasal hair and the ear hair.
Yeah.
And
they trim the brows as well, don't they?
And they trim the brows. And you know, my barber that I've known for since I was 13, 14, you know, she does exactly the same thing. So, you know, a good barber will always help to keep you tidy. And literally they just put the comb in there and they take the scissors across, or the clippers, depending how, you know, how big the eyebrows have become. But in terms of the nostril hair and the hair in the hair in the ears, I think some guys may have been to Turkey and those type of places, and what they do, they set fire to a piece of cotton and they go whoosh, 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 whoosh. For me, it's too dangerous. I've seen third-degree burns from some of these that have used them. But what some of the barbers now use, they use a wax, and it's like a lollipop. So they put almost like a wooden stick, into a hot wax, and then they put it in, and then they twist it, and then they put it into just these areas here, and leave it to dry maybe for about a minute. And it takes a minute to set, and of course then they just do that. And the same with the hair in the ears as well, especially just below the earlobes. And if they go too high, you know, they've not been trained and not doing it right. We need hair anyway in our nose, because obviously it's protect us from breathing in all the bad bacteria. So it just needs to be here, because obviously as we get certainly older, you'll get hair where the nostrils just start throwing up. Because I know, have you noticed, Michelle, your nose gets slightly bigger and across your face over the years, isn't it?
I can't say I've noticed, Mark.
I've noticed with mine, and I don't smile anymore, because when I smile it just does that. So, but you tend to find that you've got this around here. So what you need to do is actually put the lollipop stick there and then pull it out. Now for home use, there's some brilliant nose trimmers on the market anyway, which I use. I use about once every, I don't know, 4 to 5 weeks, depending on my hair growth. But yeah, some great nose trimmers out there. Just make sure that when you've used them, because it's all about hygiene, and you're not having to transmit, you know, bacteria, and risking you guys then for you know, for your future health. Just keep them clean. Just keep them clean. And you can buy little small bottles of antiseptic spray. And when you finish with it, spray it down. You spray it down. Use a little brush. If you've got any hairs in there, just use a little tiny brush. It normally comes with a brush. Brush the hair out, spray it, leave it to dry, put the top back on. So hopefully that is a good tip for the nasal hair. And the brows. I think we've answered that question, haven't we?
Yeah.
I love that bit about the Cossack and the Falcon hairspray. I love that. Now then, so coming back to shaving. So for wet shavers especially, this is the standard razor. Now you'll see that I'm not using the big G, because a lot of men complain about the blades are obviously too expensive. So I'm using a white label brand of razor. You'll see that there is a trimming edge on there as well. Can you see, I purposely pulled this one out because can you see the lubricating strip? There isn't any, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. There's a Q&A in here. I'd be like, guys, how do I keep it neat? I alternate with wet and dry shave. Brilliant. So if you're mixing it, it's important that you continue using all the right products as well. So again, you can use the shave gel oil with the electric, not with the trimmers, but with the electric, if you're going to keep it clean underneath, with the electric razor. So that's your rotating foil head. Yeah. Because if you're using the electric and then go back to wet, sometimes your skin will be too sensitized going back to this, because this is going to get you a more closer, cleaner shave. So the shave gel oil actually, one, will protect the skin, but when you're moving the foil head over your beard, it's also cleaning the foil head at the same time. So again, within the shave gel oil, we've got this lemon tea tree oil, so it's antiseptic, antibacterial, and it cleans the foil heads at the same time. So it's really clever in, one, giving you that closer shave without the discomfort, because it's not shaved dry. And again, lots of men will use that foil head dry. So they're shaving dry skin and then leaving it dry because they're probably not using the post-shave product after. Yeah. So use a shave gel oil with the foil. And then of course, then we're using electric. What we'll do is then use the shave gel oil as a protective layer. And then we can put the shave cream on the top. And as you see, if that gentleman has just said he's got similar to mine, again, you can, as I mentioned before, just study the hair growth of where your hair is growing. And the myth of shaving against the hair growth of you'll get ingrown hairs or shaving irritation is exactly that again with a capital M. So I've been shaving with and against for, well, how many years now? Nearly 40 years. And look, my skin is in great condition. Yeah. No shaving rash, no ingrown hairs. And I shave with and also shave against. So I could do that and not feel any hair whatsoever. And that's what we teach our barbers to do in the barber shop. So we teach them actually to shave with the hair growth, study it, and then shave against, but use plenty of protection in between. Because a lot of men, I think, a little bit sometimes tight with their product. And you've got to make sure you've got enough protection on your skin to keep that skin lubricated, to use something like that over time and time again. And the difference between that and that is that the more time you use that, the skin becomes what we call conditioned. So it's almost toughening up your skin against the razor blade. So then if you want to shave more regularly, the skin gets used to it and you don't get the side effects from shaving rash and razor burn. And again, keep them to about sort of 2 centimeters. Yeah. We've all seen the Gillette adverts. Raheem Sterling at the moment, I mean, his hair growth, I mean, it must be like cotton wool, because he's doing this like that, and he does that all in one stroke. It's like that. Now, some men might do that, and it might work for them. But I know for a lot of men that come to my workshops, my training academies, if they've been doing that for a number of years, then they get the razor burn and the shaving rash. So we always say, keep it short, keep them sweet, short and sweet, and let the blade do the work, not your wrist and the weight. Coming back to the lubricating strip, what I want to show you is lots of brands will tell you to chuck your razor when that razor lubricating strip there becomes like that. That's a gimmick. They always say, oh, it's full of aloe vera, it's full of this. It's a gimmick. It's an actual gimmick. So I still shave with that. And the reason I do shave with that, because these blades here are still extremely sharp, extremely sharp. So if you see your lubricating strip, and bear in mind that some men on here might have what I call this real sort of dark Italian stallion beard. Yeah. And their first shave with this would actually take all that lubricating strip off because it's so tough, but the blades will remain sharp. So ignore the advice from the packaging, or you'll know yourself when those blades start to go blunt, hopefully, that you'll do. And a tip actually to keep your blades sharper for longer, get your towel. So you've just finished your shave, you've just rinsed everything off in your sink, get a towel, and with the blade, look, don't go against, because you put holes in the towel. Do that. So you're drying the blades off. Most blades will go blunt, not because of our stubble, but because of the water corrosion, because a lot of men will just leave it damp in a damp environment in your bathroom, and that's what blunts the blades more quickly. So dry it off like that, and you'll be amazed how long these blades will last far longer by doing that. The lubricating strip we talked about. Now this cap here, lots of men, they'll get out the packet and they go, and they chuck it. And they actually chuck the most important part, especially for you guys who are susceptible for any, whether it's nicks or cuts and irritation, that then can have a side effect, for infection. This protects your razor blade. So you've just dried your blades off. You need to keep that and then pop it back on like that and then put it down, because that will stop all the bacteria getting into your blades. So it's a cover purposely set for protecting your blades. Yes, but protecting for obviously cutting your fingers, but it protects the blades. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question, Mark? A gentleman has asked what he can do for sun-damaged skin. Now, my belief on sun-damaged skin is using skin products will help repair it over time.
Yeah, and it depends on what severity as well, Michelle, of the sun damage. I think probably a lot of us, I mean, if I put my face under one of those ultra scan lights, I mean, I think my face would be, damaged by the sunlight. And it might be through the fact that I don't know if any of you guys here suffer with rosacea. So, I have probably about 3 or 4 outbreaks a year. This time of year especially, the central heating's on, it gets hot. And of course, then I get these little red lumps and bumps that come on my nose. So some experts are saying that could be also a contributing factor through lots of sunbathing and sun damage and possibly sunbeds from many, many years ago. But no one ever knows. The consultants are still baffled by what is rosacea and what causes it, and there's still no cure other than take antibiotics. But can you live on antibiotics for the rest of your life? So depending on severity, again, we talked about using all the right products to protect your skin, and just be extra careful when you're shaving, depending on how damaged the skin is, but just make sure that it's done in a methodical way. It's not rushed, so you're actually damaging the skin even more. But by applying more product to the skin daily, even if you're not shaving daily, will help repair some of that sun damaged skin for sure.
Absolutely.
Moisturization is certainly key. And again, we'll talk about it shortly after we finish on the shaving. But of course, a lot of members say, well, I don't use moisturizer. They all think it's for, developed for women. But in fact, less women need moisturizer than more men need moisturizer. Because when we're using certain things like these and we're removing skin, we've got to replace the moisture that we've just shaved out. So it's important that we look after our skin in all sorts of ways. And do you know what? I think for some that may have said, I don't really care, I don't really mind, that's fine now. But you get to a certain point, that's the wrong thing to say, because I think some men really don't care. But some men might, and they might think, I wish I'd just looked after my skin a little bit more all those years ago, and maybe taken some advice and used all those right products. Because, we get to a certain point, and of course the aging system then just goes down and down and down and down, depending on the individual and how they still want to look at a certain age. But for me, it's not vanity. I think it's just because I still want to look good and feel good. That's the point. That needs to look good, feel better. For my boys, 2 teenage boys, I still want to feel good and look good for them. We've got another question in, Michelle, I think.
Yeah. What can be done to stop skin itching under a beard and itching at the side of the nostrils? And why does eyebrow hair stay dark when all the other hair is grey?
I think he's looking at me. It's a good question, actually, because I don't know if you notice, there's some of the celebrities on TV, and they've got really grey hair, and they've got still the dark eyebrows. And again, that's all down to the the chemicals that or the chemical imbalances that sit obviously in our bodies. And that one here, I mean, if you notice, if you moved your eyebrows up like that and then touched your hair, again, it's a totally different texture.
Yeah.
And of course, with the hairline, either we lose it or we go grey. I mean, at the moment, the light isn't really catching my. I'm quite a real silvery grey, but I've got these dark eyebrows and I've got this grey beard. And sometimes I think, shall I dye my eyebrows to match everywhere else on my body? But it's just one of those. It's the unknown. But eventually they will go grey. I've got now grey, almost like highlights in mine. So there's grey coming through, and you get to a certain age where it will start to match everywhere else on your head and your face. There's another question come through.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, sorry, Michelle. What can we do to stop
the
skin
itching
itch under a beard?
Yeah.
Now, the great question, because I had that literally the night, and we talked about product. The good way of stopping the itching is to use a scrub. So you scrub first, because that's the nature's way of saying that there's dead skin cells under there. So you've got to scrub your beard. Underneath, then you're actually then scrubbing the skin, the dead skin underneath. So give it a really good scrub wash. And then what you need to do is then apply a lot of water to get that scrub out, because obviously the scrub's got this grit in it. Now, if you leave the grit in and you don't wash it out thoroughly, then the skin will be dry underneath, because the scrub will just attach itself to the skin and the beard, and it becomes extra dry, which is what you don't want. It's the opposite that you want. So give it a good scrub wash first. Really get a good rinse. Make sure all the scrub is out. Pat dry it with a towel, and then put either a beard oil in. There's some great beard oils out there now. In fact, our shave gel oil is now being used as a beard oil because it's so thick. So it's not greasy. So you can put a little bit in, massage it in, and again, it gets under the beard to your skin, which is the most important part. And then finish off with some moisturizer. So you're actually putting some lubrication into the beard itself. And of course, then the itchiness is sometimes, as the hair is so dry, you've got to actually put some lubrication back into the hair. Yeah. And that's the reason why you get the itchiness.
And Stephen have said, Mark, he had a full beard, but during chemotherapy, the hair's fallen out. What would you suggest, as he just has stubble at the moment, and also where can he purchase the razor from?
Right. Is Steve talking about this razor here, or is he talking about any sort of brandy razor? I don't know.
I will ask him.
I'm sure he's heard that, and he's probably tapping away now. I'll have a look actually, see if we've got any of these. I mean, I love this razor. I mean, I will do any because it's ours. It's the Shave Doctor one. But I'm not too sure whether we've got many of these left in stock. But there are some good. Which ones do I recommend other than Shave Doctor? I think if Gillette were continuing with their Mach 3, I'm not too sure if the Mach 3 is still available. But the Mach 3, the triple blade, is by far their best ever razor. Wilkinson Sword do one, which I think is called the Hydro Quattro. Again, that's probably one of their better ones. But something that's got 4 blades, and if you've noticed as well, I know it's difficult because they're in the packs, but have a look online. You see the distance between each blade, and that is key to getting the comfortable shave. Lots of the other manufacturers, Gillette blades are fairly close, so they tend to clog the razor blades, and they then obviously then go blunter more quickly. But you want that kind of gap between each one, so you can almost see me through it. Look, so that's the perfect razor. So you want a larger gap rather than you can't see a gap at all.
John has asked, what is the best way to help with dry skin after radiation treatment on feet and legs? Now, I've got quite a good answer to that one, actually.
You go first then, and I'll have a breather, and then you can give me a little rest.
Okay. There is a product on the market, John, that is called Mugu Udder Cream. It was designed for cow's udders, and as you know, cow's udders need to be pristine for milking. But this actual cream was made into a cream for patients going through radiation with cancer treatment. And I certainly know we had a report back from America a couple of years ago where a gentleman was badly burnt through radiation treatment, and he used udder cream literally for about a week, and he had no scarring or anything after using it. It's actually gone on to the NHS now, udder cream has, so but it is available. If you just research it, udder cream by Mugu, it's an amazing cream for radiation burns or radiation after treatment.
It says it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to think where it started from, it makes sense because the cow's udders. I mean, we talked about the genital area earlier. I mean, if you shave the genital area, it would just look and feel like the cow's udders, basically. You've got all that layer of sort of thick but thin skin. And of course, if it's damaged, then obviously it needs repairing. But yeah, that Mugu is amazing. And also Aveeno. Aveeno is amazing. I mean, again, if it's not badly burnt or damaged, but it's really just irritated and dry, the Aveeno is absolutely fantastic for that.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Even going back to an old-fashioned remedy as well, Michelle, and some people have tried it and gone, do you know what? That really works, Mark. A cup, and this sounds silly now, but listen, a cup full of porridge oats. Soak them overnight, and then put them in a hot water or a warm bath, and soak your body in there in a bath of oats. And that's what part of the Aveeno's product is all about. It's actually, we've got a scrub now that's got natural oatmeal in it. So, the natural processes within the oats really does help lubricate and take the dryness out of your skin.
Sergio asked, hi Mark, could you please go over once again the directional motions over the face while shaving?
Brilliant, great. Yeah, so I'll keep the guard on. But yeah, if my hair growth, the hairs on our face tend to grow out like that. So it's easy to do that. And you can rush it if you want to. If you're in a rush to get out in the morning, or if you rush to if you're late for something, a function, because the hairs are what I call forgiving there, because they're flat and parallel to the neck. They're not. So this is where you just have to take a little bit of time and just seeing, if you can look in the mirror, you'll see a pattern. If you've got a good hair growth, you'll see actually where the hair is growing. And of course, mine grow from jawline to about here. So what I'll tend to do is that. So I'll lift up and I'll go like this, like that. And I'm just going down to this point here because I know from there to there, it's growing up. And I'll just turn the razor around and then I'll do that. If it's not rushed, I'm doing that look. Always be mindful of this area. Lots of men always nick and cut the Adam's apple. So what I tend to do is I train my barbers is just push the skin off the Adam's apple. So I'm not shaving on it. So imagine that's the hair there now, look. Where's it gone now? It's gone to the opposite side. Yeah. And the same if I did that. Yeah. So again, move and work around the Adam's apple and do that. And again, I'll do the same this side, like that. And then turn the razor that way and then go up that way. Now then, even if I did that, I would still feel now a little bit of stubble. And if I did that, I'd still feel a bit of stubble. So at this point now, I put more gel oil on. Now, the shaving cream that we developed also, you can either use with your fingers or the shaving brush. Shaving brush is brilliant actually, because what you're doing is using less product because it's all in the brush. Imagine now you've got shave gel, something like this. Yeah. And then you're doing that, and then you're doing this, and you've got all on your hands. You've got enough on your face, but so it's all in the sink, and it's all gone. So what a waste of product. So a shaving brush, a little bowl, you do that, and you apply. And of course, every time you then need to go back, it's in your shaving brush. Yeah, and it's really good hygiene-wise as well, because if you're shaving with dirty fingernails, yeah, and you may have nicked, and it's not good to have dirty fingernails, obviously on sensitive skin. So I'll then relather, and of course then what I'll do now is go against it to get it smooth. So I've gone up, so that's going against, and then I'll go up now that way to get it really smooth. And you'll see there, look, that's what I did this morning, just before the webinar. If you're doing the goatee, you'll again come in almost that way, and then this way, and again, you can either do that or at least stretch your face yourself like that. And then as you get to this point here, you really, because lots of guys always say, oh, I tried to shape it in, I went too far. That's because they rushed it and they haven't got the patience. So again, when you get to this point here, just carefully bring your razor in, and then you can use, if you wanted to, the edging trimmer like that. Like that. And then of course here I've got this part here. So again, I'll come across. So don't go down, because again, a lot of men will cut the lip. So come across like that. Look, you see the angle of the razor, and do that. Like that. And then here, I'm just doing that in the middle. So I'm hoping that's helped. In fact, I'm just looking at this area here. There was a question about the itchy nostril, dry nostril area, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. And again, talking about moisturizers, again, just keep that area there, look, and do that with some moisturizer. Up, down, and up and down. And around this area. And if you wanted to, just put some around just in the inside of your nostril as well. So it will actually work inside out. Yeah, but don't shove it all the way up. But just on these little areas in, that will keep it moisturized.
Stephen wants to know, where does he get hold of that razor, Mark?
If I'll have a look, see what we've got on the in stock. But if he sends us, and if he goes onto the website, the shavedoctor.co.uk website, I don't think it's on there at the moment, but if he sends us an email, there's a little drop box in the messaging there, and then we'll pick that up. Someone will send it to me, and then we'll have a look to see if we've got one of those that we can send out to.
And we have another gentleman. As someone whose father had a big comb over, is it better as a bald man to keep hair short at sides and back? What is a good beard look to go with short hair with no hair on top? Should I shave straggling bits of hair in an otherwise deserted of no hair look?
Brilliant question. I love that question, because again, it's down to personal choice and the fashion. And listen, I mean, we could say it in the most diplomatic way, but I always say, depending on your age, do you really want a comb over? Possibly not. I have a lot of the shave models that I use on a regular basis that come to my academy. And some that did have the comb overs no longer have the comb overs. And we chatted to them. We didn't force them to, remove the hair fully. But we just said to them, look, there's a picture of you looking, bald, literally, and there's a picture with the comb over and hair at the sides. And when they were convinced or not convinced, or they thought about having it shaved off, when they looked at it after, and we got pictures before and after, I always think it takes about 10 years off a man. So and I've always said, I mean, look, I've got hair at the moment, but I always said, if I go bald or receding, it would be the time when I'll start to take the razor to my head. Because I always think, whether it's that sort of evolution thing and it's the baby look, we always look younger when we've got no hair. It is true. And I think men look smarter when they've got shaved head now. And in terms of the beard, I mean, we have men with full beards and bald head that look really cool, as long as they are, groomed and done properly. Or I always think the goatee looks great with a bald head. But the comb over, I would certainly take away. And I think they'd be surprised. And once it's removed, and even shaving the sides of the head, then it will make them look a lot younger. And I would think possibly more, I would say more presentable, because it's entirely up to them, how they want to present themselves. But I just think it takes years off a man. So I've always said, it's all coming off. If I start to lose that, it's all coming off, and I'll just have the goatee.
Perfect. And Steve wants to know, I suppose that trad aftershave is a no-no.
What was that question? Sorry, Michelle.
I suppose the traditional aftershave is a no-no.
Brilliant. That's a great question, because I was going to come to that. So, what is the biggest ingredient in aftershaves?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. So, we've just had this brilliant shave, whether it's through one of these, because we couldn't convert it to wet, or through your wet shave. And then you put the moisturizer on, because you've just put all this moisture back into your skin that you've just shaved out for the last 10, 15 minutes. And then we do the Home Alone thing, don't we? We get the aftershave up and we go, and it's that, like that. And that's what we don't want. Now, if you're doing that, and it's hurting, it's stinging, and people think years ago, oh, brilliant, it's astringent, it's doing really, my skin really, some good. No, it's not. What it's doing is drying out your skin straight away, but also it's irritating the skin. If you notice when you put aftershave on sometime, whether you've done it that way or you've sprayed it straight after a shave, not with all men, but with lots of men, it will start to make the skin red again. So it's irritating the skin. So the alcohol now is irritating the skin. So I always say, spray it in your hair and in your head. Sebaceous glands in this area here, far more powerful reacting rather than these down here. So when you release heat, naturally, it comes from the scalp, yeah. And I always use this analogy in the younger generation. I'm doing the shavication workshops with the young lads, because they know what it's like. So I always say, if you've got it there and you're in a busy wine bar or a nightclub and you're just leaning over, the first thing the woman will smell is your hair, yeah. And of course, it lasts longer up there because naturally it's in, more of a condensed area. And of course, we tend to touch our face. You remember in the early part of the pandemic, and they were saying, we've got to get used to wearing the mask, and if you don't wear that, because you're always touching your face. So hand sanitizing, keep washing it, and we do. We don't realize how many times we do that every time that God knows how many times in an hour. So you sprayed, you put your aftershave on, and then you go out and you're forever doing that. You're rubbing your face, you're scratching, you're doing that. It's all gone. So it lasts a lot longer up here, but at the same time, it doesn't irritate your skin down here. Now, if we do wedding shaves, so we do wedding parties, we'll always say to the groom and the best man in this party, look, if you want aftershave on, leave it at least an hour after the shave, especially the cutthroat barber shave, because that would take up to around 15 layers, the outer layers, the epidermis. So it's half. So always leave it an hour and let your skin breathe. And if you want it around there, then spray it. But that's the best place. And also around maybe the back of the ears and the back of the neck. And of course the clothes. So again, it will last a lot longer on material than it will do on your skin.
Steve, thanks for that. I'll spray my head or down my shirt, laugh out loud.
And he will know it'll work. I mean, it's like if you take your shirt off or you take a jacket off, or if you just sometimes catch your own, body smell, you'll smell it actually in your hair. If you wear a gel or something like that, and you put the aftershave in, you'll smell it more up here, and you'll smell it on your pillow at night or in the morning. So it does work, and it doesn't irritate the rest of your skin around here. And that's the same, by the way, when we talked about the genital areas. So if you still want to freshen up down there, make sure you leave it at least an hour before you put something on down there to make that part smell nice as well.
And guys, if you do want to attend a Look Good, Feel Better men's workshop, which are currently online and virtual, you actually have in the back, it's called Below the Belt Grooming.
I've just seen that on my shelf, yes.
It's for fresh and dry balls. So yeah, you get a lovely bag of products from the workshop. So yes. It's
a brand called Below the Belt, isn't it? Below the Belt Grooming, which is quite strange because years ago, actually, somebody actually said to me, we talked about the shaving of the genital area. And they said, why don't you bring out a product? And I was going to actually bring one out. It was actually going to be called Smooth Balls. But you can imagine the amount of time. David just said the amount of time, so we'll skip on there and we'll get the Q&As in it. But you can imagine, putting that into your basket, and then obviously finding people behind going, smooth balls. So we decided not to. We'll let these guys deal with that part there. So shaving's done. So have we got other? I mean, we've had some great questions throughout the session, rather than at the end. Has anybody got any further questions on shaving? I'm not seeing any come through. Have you, Michelle? There was one there. Oh, I missed that one.
No,
oh, yeah,
that
that's
was
the last
Steve.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't know if David wants to come back in before we go on to the post-shave moisturising.
No, I think it's good. I think you've been, obviously been answering questions that have been coming in. So when we go straight in, jump into that. I know obviously we've had a few questions about the moisturizer as well. So I think it ties in nicely now.
Brilliant. Okay. So we'll continue with the post-shave moisturizer. So again, very simply, we talked about removing layers of skin. And do you know what? I always think about shaving, but it's not. I mean, we go to bed at night. Our skin dries out because we dehydrate during the night. We need obviously, water in the morning, cup of tea, cup of coffee. So it's not just obviously what we need to put inside. It's obviously our skin is needing hydrating as well. So a good body moisturizer is certainly important. I think obviously we talked about the damaged skin from treatment, and the Muga, which is really good. The Atheno, which is brilliant. I mean, some of my family have extremely dry skin, and again, it's got the oatmeal products in it, and ingredients in it, and that's really, really good for keeping the skin moisturized, and especially during this time of year as well, because central heating's on, and then we're going outside. It's cold, it's wet. And then you're sort of in and out of different temperatures. So that doesn't help. So again, make sure that you keep your skin hydrated. I don't know if anybody watches I'm a Celebrity, the Castle at the moment. And there was a great piece, and I always like it because it's great for my business. But there was a great piece with David Ginola. And he was putting his moisturizer here, and then he went, and then all over. Yeah, and all over his body. And it's important because sometimes we do find that it's not just these areas that, I'm passionate about, obviously that's my business, but a lot of our bodies will tend to at some point be itchy. And again, that's because one, there's dry, cold, what I call cold hair that's trying to grow through. And we've got, as we've got up here, dead skin cells. So again, you've got to keep scrubbing the body and then keeping it hydrated. And that's all over. And of course, I've just mentioned that I forgot to mention the underarms. So again, coming back to the shaving element, underarms exactly the same thing. So go down first, relather, go back up, come across. So it's almost 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, again, because a lot of men will want to shave that area as well. And again, that's using the gel oil and the cream, but start with the scrub. And then coming back to the moisturizer, make sure you put plenty of moisturizer underneath, because again, that's an area where the hair will tend to grow more quickly on its regrowth. And I think a lot of women always say that when they shave their arms, their armpits, it will tend to be a bit itchy maybe 3 or 4 days later because the hair's growing through again. Because it's so short, it becomes slightly irritated. But if you keep putting plenty of moisturizer on, it won't. So you keep that area lubricated and hydrated underneath. But moisturizing, even if you've got a beard, we mentioned earlier, is so important. And make sure that you've got it everywhere. So your ears, around your ears, around the neck area, around the armpits, genital area especially. I think we've got a couple of questions in.
A question from Michelle.
Yeah.
I'm a woman like many who suffers from facial hair growth and use a razor rather than hair removal or electrolysis. Is any of what Mark is advising for the men helpful to us?
Now then.
Yes.
Do you want to answer? Or are you answering that?
No, you can answer it first. But yeah, it is quite relevant to us as well.
It is.
I
And in
mean,
fact, it's nice to see actually a female.
it
on
is,
as well.
yeah.
I would assume it's all men. So
No.
I apologise if it's all, I've been directed all to the men on here. Brilliant question. And in fact,
Absolutely.
somebody only contacted me last night because they know, if you go onto my website, and I've got another one called the ShaveDoctorShaveAcademy.com. I developed something called the Dermablading. So it's like dermaplaning that the beauty therapists will do. And it's what they use with a scalpel. And they say it removes this facial fuzz, which obviously is what this lady here is obviously asking and inquiring about. So it's no different using the scalpel to using a razor. And I developed something called the Dermablading. So I use the cutthroat razor rather than the scalpel because it's less harsh on the skin, but use all the Shave Doctor products. So we start with a scrub, we lie them back in the barber's chair. So it's treat them just like we treat the man. And we lie them back, we do the scrub wash. We apply a hot towel. So we open up the pores. And then we apply a shave gel oil. We don't put a cream on. There's no need to, because the hair is soft enough anyway. And then we're not just removing the hair, but again, we're just removing all the dead skin. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I've got now lots of friends with teenage daughters saying they've got spotty prone skin. And I know that if we treat them with the razor, we're removing not just hair and skin, but also the bacterial infection within their face. So it has many benefits that dermablading has. Hope that helps.
Yeah. Any tips for dealing with psoriasis at top of head or on the scalp?
Yeah, it's a good one, that, because again, years ago, I was seen as controversial in the industry because I was maybe one of the first you ever saw me at, Michelle, in Wales.
Yeah, it was.
And I was talking about the fact that, you could shave almost any skin within reason. And psoriasis we've shaved. And that's in front of many people watching what I do, and they're all sat there going, oh, this isn't right. It can't be right. But then they see it, and then they see the end result, and they go, oh my God, you can. So again, I can't stress enough, the products are so important. If you've got problematic skin and you're always going to go and tackle your shave like you've always done, it's not going to work. Use as much of the product range as you can that's been advised, that now works for you, that will protect your skin. And then you can experiment yourself and how far you actually go with each one and how your skin reacts after. So I'm not saying it's a miracle for every single one. We're all differently, accustomed to how things work, but try it for yourself first, because I know a lot of people say you can't shave skin that's got psoriasis, or it's got severe eczema, or men living with cancer. And I've heard those stories for many years, and we do it with success. Absolutely.
So is there any
Is that
questions?
all the questions? Yeah.
Any more questions?
Was that the one for top of the forehead and scalp? Yeah, so I'm hoping it's answered the question there. Yeah.
No more questions on that side?
So I think we're done on the scrub, pre-shave, shave, post-shave. And I think we've done quite well actually on the Q&A. I'm really pleased that we've managed to answer a lot of the questions, a lot of the interest. If there's anything you've forgotten about, just put them in the Q&A and we can answer them as we go along. But is there any more coming in, Michelle?
Thanks for that. No, that's fine.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think if you want to go on to your bit now in the sun care.
Yeah. So it's all about being sun savvy, even on winter days. So basically, if you're ever looking for a sunscreen, always opt for a sunscreen that provides both UVA and UVB. The UVA protects against environmental damage. The UVB protects against the sun and burning. But obviously, if you are going to go on a summer holiday or a winter holiday even, be very cautious if you're taking any medications that can make you more susceptible to react in the sun. These include blood pressure medications, chemotherapies. Always check back with your doctor if you are able to go in the sun. But what I can't stress enough, guys and ladies, if you are out in the sun, never go for anything lower than a factor 30. Okay. I've actually in the bags at the moment, there's a factor 20, which is not great, and a factor 50 for the face. Yeah, I've got the 50 for the face as well. Never spend any time in the sun between the hours of 11 and 3, as you know. And with your sunscreen, always make sure that choose one that has zinc oxide or titanium in it, because these help to block out any UVA or UVB rays. And when you're applying it, dot it on the skin and pat it in. Do not rub it in. And a lot of companies on sun creams, unfortunately, will say that they are water resistant. If you go in the water, into the pool or into the sea, when you come out, you pat yourself dry, you need to reapply it. And one thing I can't stress enough about sun cream is that even in the winter weather, 80% of the sun's rays, like today, the sun was on my screen. I had to shut my blind because the sun was shining. The sun is still really damaging, even in winter weather. Mm. So you would need to apply a sunscreen every single day. All a factor 30 means, it doesn't mean you won't get some sort of tan. It means that you won't burn the skin so badly, because if you go out in the sun and you burn within 10 minutes with no sunscreen on, it just means that if you've got a factor 30 on, that factor 30 will provide you with support and cover for 30 times that 10 minutes, which is about 300 minutes, which is about 3-4 hours. I always say reapply before it runs out to protect you. When you're out in the sun, always try and cover up if you can. Wear a brimmed hat to protect you, and suitable clothing as well. There are many sun creams out there that say they're once a day sun creams. Don't rely on those, okay? Because they do need to be reapplied to give you full protection. And basically, lots of people forget about their heads with sun. So if you have nothing on your head, or no hair on your head here, you should always apply a sunscreen on your head. But not only apply sunscreen, you put the hat on top, you'll protect that area. During my time at Look and Feel Better, I have seen so many people that have gone out in the sun and forgotten about that part of their head, and they've severely burnt it. And that is not great, because that part, especially in women, when they lose their hair through treatment, that part of their scalp there is very, very sensitive to daylight, because it never sees daylight. Okay. Do we have any questions about that, guys? About sun care? We got one question there, or no? You got anything to add on sun care, Mark?
I'm just thinking, I mean, you talked about the clothing. I mean, I'm hoping that all of us know and realise that, you know, clothing makes such a difference as well, in the fact that we don't tend to or want to burn as quick as we do. And of course, if you're using lots of dark clothing, it's 10 times worse. So they always say use light clothing so that it reflects the UV rays, so you don't get burnt so quickly. So if you're going to use a hat, make sure it's a light coloured hat, at least a white or a light coloured t-shirt. I think for a lot of men that know that they want a real dark tan, they'll always put a black or a dark t-shirt on and dark shorts. So the lighter the clothes, the better it is. And I think another tip for me is that if you've forgotten your sun creams and your sun lotion, and you'll go to the local supermarkets, or the guy that's got the stall in the street, along the beach,
look for the star.
Yes, because I always avoid those, because they could have been there for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And of course, then there's a shelf life of all these products, including your sun creams. And if it's out of life, it's not going to have any effect on
if I can show
whatsoever.
You guys, on the back there's a little open jar, and that's got 12 in it. That means once you've opened this product, after 12 months, you should bin it. It's no longer effective. And I do have one little thing to do with sun. If you're on holidays or planning a holiday in the future, practice the shadow rule. If your shadow is shorter than you, it means the sun rays are at their strongest. Yeah. And that's a very good tip, that is, which means cover up. And yeah, like I say, guys, the sun is the strongest between 11 and 3. Stay out of the sun in that time.
But we always think about the sun being, warmth, don't we? And sunbathing. But, it's been raining here now this afternoon, but this morning, winter day, and the sun's out, and you think, it's freezing, it's -2 out here today. But, it's the certain rays from the sun that is causing us the damage, not necessarily the heat and the sunburn that causes the damage. So there's 2 different elements to to what comes from that lovely yellow thing in the sky, but also at the same time can have a damaging effect on on our health. So I think even for you guys, where you're going out on winter days, I would still put on sun cream. I put sunscreen on and make sure that because even on winter days you can get a tan. And you've heard the myth about you could be on a beach, it's grey and it's windy, or it's just slightly overcast, a little bit of sun coming through the clouds, and people go, I've got a wind tan, it's really windy today. It's not a wind tan, it's the sun's rays coming through, even though you can't feel it, but it's actually burning through the clouds onto your skin. Now, it might be a freezing cold day, but it's the sun rays that's actually got you. So there's that myth about what's a wind tan, or you can't get the sun tan in in the winter, or it can't damage me in it. It's the sun rays from the sun that does cause that damage, not necessarily the heat of the sun.
Great. Shall we ask David to put up the second poll?
There's a question here.
Oh, we got another question.
Yeah.
I am on hormone therapy, or torture as I call it. My skin along with the rest of my body is becoming more female. Are there any differences with shaving moisturizing that I need to heat?
Good question. Yes. So, it depends on the area that you want to keep moisturized. I would say that you want a good, what I call, I'm hoping I can actually show you on screen. Can you see how this comes out? There, look. It's fairly thick, you see. Now, a lot of moisturizers, and I'll tell you the difference between that and a balm. So again, someone asked the question only the other day, well, I've got a balm, what's the difference? Well, the shaving balm is almost like something that you would apply after a shave, just to cool the skin. So that's still on my finger, it's not run anywhere. Now, if I put the balm on, see, that's just dripping everywhere now, look. And that's the difference in the texture and the consistency, viscosity of the product. So the thicker the moisturizer, we've called ours, I don't know if you can see it. This was years ago because we wanted more men to use the product for them. We call it Moisturizer. Is that back to front, or can you see that, Michelle? Okay.
No, I can see it okay.
So it reads Moisturizer. I see it back to front on my screen, you see. So it's called the Moisturizer. Now then, look at that balm. It's off my finger. Look at the Moisturizer. Still there. Yeah. So I wanted something that was extremely thick in viscosity that would add that extra layer, but not make the skin look greasy either. Yeah.
Serta have asked, what protection level sun cream would you recommend for sensitive skin also suffering from rosacea? I would say no lower than a 30, and if possible, a 50 on the face. 50,
if it's a rosacea like mine, then certainly I would put a 50, almost a sunblock, on the nose and on the cheek area. I know that some will struggle with rosacea, you know, not just on the nose like me, but maybe, you know, across their cheekbones and maybe down to their sort of mouth area. But I always put a sunblock on the nose and then put a factor 30 on the rest of my face. Just out of interest for that one there.
Any other questions?
I'm just thinking, what does he use for rosacea? And is the treatment or the cancer made the rosacea worse? Be interesting to know.
Yeah. So if you'd like to answer that question, has it got worse during your treatment?
He's probably typing away now, I think.
David, can we put the second poll up, please?
There you go. It's up.
Thank you.
I feel like a nervous schoolboy now, thinking what the results coming in like.
All right, we've got 5 more seconds and then we'll close it. All right, 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right, so I would say we are doing pretty well. We've got 50% say they're very likely to consider changing their current routine or starting one.
Fantastic.
Another 20% saying they definitely will. 20% saying that they'd like to understand a bit more before making any changes, which, you know, obviously is fair enough. You know, go out and do your research. And then just a 10% saying that they're not very likely. So didn't maybe convert everyone, but you know, hopefully they may also go out and do a bit more sort of research on this and see the sort of some of the benefits that you guys have really demonstrated today.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, that's a positive one, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I personally, David, would like to invite all the guys along to the men's session. It is virtually online at the moment, so they haven't got to go out of their homes to attend it. They will receive the bag full of products after the session. And yeah, I mean, we have a guest speaker on that might be somebody to do with nutrition. It might be somebody to do with general life, you know, things to do with life. It could be a sports personality. So, and also Mark takes a lot of the sessions online as well. So yeah, we'd like to invite the guys to come along.
Right, absolutely.
A Good Feel Better men's program online.
We'll make sure to include the details of that when we send out an email goes out to everyone who attended and anyone who couldn't make it as well. So we'll include the details of how you can sign up for those Look and Feel Better webinars as well.
Somebody said you need a shave, David.
I did see that. I hadn't. Maybe I need to attend one of your sessions. I have been taking notes. But yes, no. You described the story of the young boy who switched over to an electric razor and never looked back. And I have to admit that's me, because I've got sensitive skin. When I tried my wet, I tried a couple of times, put it down, and it's now getting dusty in a drawer. But I'm going to try again on the back of this, and
Good man. Fantastic.
And Serge has just come back. I noticed that it has got worse during treatment. As a result, I want to see my dermatologist. I was prescribed to use cilantro cream, which I have used before.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Now, in fact, sorry, Dave, I've got any time, but I mean, I've used that. It didn't work for me. It might work for Sedar, for sure, but I think it's just trial and error with rosacea. And unfortunately for me, I've tried every topical cream going. And a good friend of ours is top dermatologist at Queen's Medical in Nottingham. And he, with his team, across the globe, still do not know what causes this rosacea.
Says it seems to have got better with that cream.
Yeah, so brilliant for him. But I find for me, it has to be oral antibiotics. So I'll take them for probably 3 months of the year. And then for 6 months, I'm fine. And then it comes back. So I'm on that sort of vicious sort of cycle at the moment. But yes, it's frustrating. It is frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Mark and Michelle, for that very informative and very kind of hands-on webinars of the most hands-on we've got. So hopefully everyone's taken away some really helpful tips and tricks, and going to make some good changes to their own routines.
Fantastic.
So do I. Thank you. I mean, it's. I mean, you can see some of the the results coming in now. It's good that they've learned something, and if they haven't, subconsciously, they would have taken something away from today. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, brilliant. Have a great weekend, everyone, and speak to you soon.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thanks,
weekend.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.